What is up, Turner Creek Elementary School? My name is Scott Reintgen, and I am an author. And all that really means is that I get to make things up for a living. It's my job to have an imagination. Someone actually pays me to do that. It's a really, really fun job. Before that, I was a teacher, and I actually taught in Wake County. I was a student in Wake County. I went to Cary High School. I went to Lufkin Road Middle. I went to Oak Grove Elementary, so just down the road from where you all are. I miss being a teacher, but one of the ways I get to keep talking with students is through events like this. And so what I'd love to do first is I always introduce myself because I'm very aware that most of you are watching this and you're like, who is this random bald guy? I've never seen him before. So, like I said, my name is Scott Rankin. I'm an author, and I want to help you figure out, will you even like my book series? And the first way I do that is help you figure out, okay, based on other things you read, is this a book series that you'll actually enjoy, right? So, raise your hand at home if you've ever read or watched Percy Jackson. A few, right? Raise your hand if you've ever read Land of Stories. A couple for that. Raise your hand if you've ever read Wings of Fire. A few for Wings of Fire. And then raise your hand if you've ever read, or watched rather, Wreck-It Ralph or Inside Out. Yeah, that usually gets everyone. Well, if you like any of those stories, any of those movies, there's a very good chance that you will like Saving Fable and the sequel, which comes out in February, which is called Escaping Ordinary. These both are really fun stories. To tell you more about them, Indira is the main character. You can see her right front and center. And Indira wants to be a character in a book. So she's literally going to school like you would for anything else and learning how to be a character in a book. The problem is her auditions do not go well. Unfortunately, she fails, and she's told that she's not hero material. She can only ever be a side character. Now, Indira is like, I don't know, I've got this cool magical hammer you see right here. I've got all these skills and things. I feel like I'm definitely hero material. And so we follow her through her first year at school as she tries to figure out, how do you come back from failure? How do you come back from messing up? What do you do next? And Indira also figures out there's this big conspiracy happening in the school, and she might be the only one who can save the day. So we follow her as she tries to figure out, can a side character really save the day? And then the second one, I think, is like a shout out to all my video game lovers at home. In this one, the crew gets pulled into one big video game. And the story is about how they can escape, how they can get out. It's a really, really fun book. Like I said, Wings of Fire, Percy Jackson, anything like that. I have a feeling that you'll like these books. So what I'd like to do now is read just a little bit from Escaping Ordinary. And then once I've read a little bit from that, I would like to answer some of the questions that y'all sent me in. But this excerpt, Indira and her crew are on a training exercise, and she's about to have a secret revealed to her. And it might be the secret of what's happening on this cover right here. All right, here we go. The doors groaned open. Phoenix tugged a hanging switch, and the overhead lamps in the barn fluttered on, filling the room with gentle light. The barn wasn't what she'd been expecting. There were no bales of hay, no wooden stalls, no animals. In fact, the whole room was empty, and walls that had appeared wooden from the outside were actually constructed of a shining metallic material. "What is this?" she asked. "Why do the walls look so weird?" Phoenix didn't answer. He crossed to the center of the room before turning to face her. "I need to show you something." He held out his right hand. With a snap of his fingers, he summoned fire. It was always so beautiful, the way the flames tossed back and forth in his open palm. Indira frowned. "Fire," she said, a little confused. I know, you've always had fire. It's more than just fire." Phoenix's fingers flexed wide. Indira almost cried out as the flames raced across his entire body. In a bright flash, a burst of heat filled the room and forced her to look away. Her heart was hammering in panic until she squinted into the light and realized the flames were growing. "Phoenix?" taller and wider. Phoenix's outline in the flames started to blur. There was a snatch of powerful magic. Indira's eyes widened. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. It wasn't possible. A creature stood at the center of the room that was little larger than a tractor. Phoenix was gone, and in his place there stood a dragon. An actual dragon. Indira was certain, too, that it was Phoenix looking down at her. Even in this other form, there was no mistaking the look on his face, the look he often gave her with that one eyebrow raised in question, though now that eyebrow was replaced by scales the color of burnished clay. He looked like he was grinning, too, except his teeth had transformed into rows of fangs. It was impossible for Indira to stay focused on their mission. Are you serious? You're a dragon? This is awesome. So what I'd like to do now is kind of take some of your questions. I was given a handful of questions from students and teachers. My first one comes from Alex. It says, what inspires you to write? That's a great question. I think first, it's a really fun job. Second, I have a weird brain, right? I'm always imagining stories happening, and I'm always thinking about weird angles. You know, my wife, one time we were on a hike and mountains everywhere, and she kind of tapped my shoulder and said, what are you thinking about right now? I said, well, if an army was chasing us, I was thinking about if an army was chasing us, how would we escape? And she was like, what's wrong with you? I said, I don't know. I got a weird brain. So there's that. There's also the fact that like writing is a way to have a voice. I'm a pretty shy person. I don't really talk to people when I go into coffee shops. I'm pretty introverted. But my first book, Nixia, has sold over 75,000 copies. That's me having a voice with 75,000 people. And I have things I care about, things I'm passionate about. And so if I'm not going to say them out loud, one way to have a voice, one way to make sure you're heard is to write. And I guarantee, I promise you, your voice matters. So being someone who writes is a good way to get what you think out into the world. The second question, how did you pick the names for your characters? This comes from Adeline. Yeah. So each of these characters, on the front cover, I have Phoenix, Indira, and Maxie. And I think all three of them are a lot of fun. I really wish I was really deep and there was some cool meaning behind every name. I usually pick a name that sounds cool and fits my character. That's normally where I kick off, and that's normally how it goes. And I really do wish it was a deeper answer than that, but the one rule I have, and I think it's a good rule to follow, is I don't want names that all start with the same letter, because then if you have a big cast of characters, your readers will get confused. They kind of mix up characters because they sound similar, so you want them to sound a little bit different. The third question I have is, what is your favorite book that you have authored? So I have several books. I don't have the covers right in front of me, but they're for a slightly older audience than you all. The Nixia trilogy, Ash Lords. Nixia, my first book, has a pretty soft, special part in my heart, I feel like, because it's the book that got me published. It's the reason I get to be an author. I will say, though, this is the funniest book I've written, this series. It is definitely the one where, like, if you're trying to laugh, this is a great one to jump into. And my final question, this comes from Lisa. If you could give the kids one tip to ensure success in school, what is it? That's a good question. I don't know that I was always successful at school. That's one thing. My one tip, so I'm a writer, I'm a reader, and so I'm actually going to take the approach, maybe not success in school as much as being a reader, right? Because I think being a reader is one way to be successful at a lot of things. So what I would say is, if you don't feel like you're a reader right now, like maybe you have a hard time finding books that connect with you, it's okay. I wasn't a reader till about 7th grade. Just wasn't a big reader. I didn't find many books that suited me. But once I finally found the perfect book for me, it's like all these doors open, and there were a lot of books for me to read. And so one encouragement I always want to give to young people, young readers, is like, if you haven't found the right book yet, just give it some time. Be patient. You will find books that you love, and once you find the first one, you'll find a lot more. And maybe it's these ones. I don't know. We'll see. But I really just would encourage you to be patient and have fun and enjoy yourself. You only get to go through, grades and schools and all that like one time, and a lot of times we take it very seriously when really a lot of life is meant to be enjoyed, and we're meant to have fun and meet people, and I hope you do those things, and hopefully you'll see some of that in these books too. The last thing that I'll mention, since I don't have any more questions, is we are doing a really fun contest. It's on my website. Your teachers and librarians will have more info, but the basic gist of the contest is this. If you order this book, you can enter a contest to win a PlayStation 5. The book comes out on February 16th. We're really excited about that launch. This book, if you order it, though, you can email bookpreorders@gmail.com. You send an email saying, hey, I ordered the book. You get entered into that contest. You can either win a PlayStation 5 or $500 worth of books to your favorite bookstore. Both great prizes. And worst case scenario, you have a new video game-oriented fun book to play and to read. So hopefully that's something that you all would be interested in. We've got a lot of entries already, but it's been fun to kind of see some local people sort of entering this contest. And best of luck with that. But if you don't decide to enter a contest, that's cool. I hope you enjoy the reading. I hope you enjoy whatever you're reading right now. And I hope that y'all have a good night. Thanks so much, y'all.